Hi there, it's Richard from the OPA Hub website, your source for intelligent advisor content, back with you to look again at the new Hub authoring functionality. In this second video, we'll take a look at two new ways of entering rules, specifically using table format and using object list format. So I'll begin by going into the Hub, going to the Project tab, and for the purposes of our demonstration, I'm going to go and create a new project. I'm going to delete the existing content here, and I'm going to insert a table instead. And I'll change the name of my project. Try and get it right. There we go. And I will enter a piece of text for the heading. And enter some comments underneath. Fine. So as you can see that a table has a very familiar structure. I have one condition column and one result column. I'm free to click on the three little dots and add more conditions, more results to delete what's there. And on the left-hand side, I can also add lines below. So let's say something like the citizen's age. In fact, let's do it as a condition. Let's do it all the way up here and say less than 18. The result will be, we'll say the cost of the processing will be a value of 2.00, and greater than 18, cost will be a value of 3.00. So we can imagine that we're counting the cost of processing some information, and the cost is different depending on your age. I'll go to the input and add an input of type number, which will be the citizen's age, so that we've clarified where the citizen's age is coming from. It's currently coming from an input attribute, so it'll be provided as input to my decision service. And as you can see, it's quite easy to add another column. So we could simply do what we used to do in Excel and say less than 25, and add another line below. Just say, okay, greater than 25 is 4 currency units, or just 4, whatever that is. Okay, so creating and working with a table is very straightforward. We could even say, for example, in this case, it will be 1.3 multiplied by the citizen's age, just in case anyone was wondering. Can I put in a calculation? Yes, I can. So now we have a very basic table. Tables, in fact, are almost as good as Excel and as easy to use as they were in Word. And I find that the screen display is very useful, and it's really quite simple to use. So now we're going to take a look at the second kind of block, and that is an object list block. The object list block does something very different. The object list block is designed to help me infer entities. So the layout is slightly different. You'll notice that it has what looks like a table underneath, and it is a table, but it's a table used for inferring instances. And just in the same way as we in the past might have created an entity and a containment relationship, and then gone ahead in Excel and written a Excel table to infer instances of that entity. So I'm going to say here the benefits. So you can think of this as my description of what this table is generating. And we'll say here is going to be something like the benefit name and the benefit value. So these obviously are attributes of the benefit, and my condition will be, let's have a couple of columns here. We'll say the citizen's age, and we'll say less than 21, and they will earn a young person's benefit worth 200 units. And we'll put in another line. And we'll say less than 30 or less than 75. We'll say the adult benefit is worth 250. And in the final case, we'll add a new one. We'll say the citizen's zip code. And we'll use numeric zip code. So we'll say greater than 95,000, which in France means it's an overseas territory. And that will be 275. So in the case of an individual who is age 25 and who lives overseas, we would expect them to receive two benefits, the adult benefit and the overseas benefit. Now, we need to deal with the citizen zip code. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the citizen zip code as an input attribute. And in my case, zip codes are purely numeric, not working in England for the time being. Let's assume this is a French zip code. There's my zip code. So far so good. So the benefits will be calculated, and you'll notice up here it says calculated once per case, because at the moment there are no other entities or nothing else that tells Intelligent Advisor that I might want to execute this more than once. I'm going to make matters a little more complicated by introducing the idea that we want to have a citizen entity as well. So in a sense, we want to be able to calculate the citizen's benefits. So benefits will not be executed once per case, they'll be executed once per citizen. So let's see how that would work. I'm going to go over to my input here, and I'm going to create the citizen as input. I'll call that the citizens. Okay. So now you can probably see where I'm going to go with this is I've created an object called the citizen, and I want to repatriate these two attributes, which I originally created for this demo. I actually now want them to be part of the citizen. In OPM, that would have happened kind of automatically. It would have noticed the name of the entity text rather, and would have brought those into the entity. In this case, all I have to do is click move to the citizen. And we'll do the same for the zip code. Move to the citizen. So now I have the input entity called citizen, and I have the age and the zip code, which are part of the citizen, which means this table is complaining because it's saying, well, how can I do this? The citizen's age, I don't understand. A field exists, but it doesn't belong to the citizens, and I have an issue with it. Okay, so there are a couple of things we need to sort out. The first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to also make sure that it understands the relationship with the benefits between the citizen and the benefits, and then we'll come back and correct all these issues and finish it all off. So the first thing I want to do is to make sure that it understands that benefits will be calculated for each of the citizens. So each citizen will get benefits. So if I have multiple citizens in input, I should expect to see each of those citizens with some sort of benefit. Which means also in the output, I need to make sure that in the output, I make sure I have my citizens, and that I have also my benefit. Obviously, these names that I'm using, obj underscore, this is just my little convention for the demo. You'll have your own naming conventions. And the benefits. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that inside the benefits, we have the benefit name and the benefit value, which is a number. There we go. So now I'm going to be sending out from my decision service the citizen object and a series of benefits for each of the citizens. And we have also got ourselves a global attribute called the cost of the processing, which I'm going to add to my outputs. I'm going to go up here and make sure that I add to the outputs the cost of the processing. And I'm going to make sure that is right up at the top, so it's neither in the citizen object nor in the benefit object. The citizen's age, we need to make sure that the citizen's age, this is now calculated for each of the citizens. In which case, if we do this, this processing value is now in the wrong place, and I need to move it into the citizen. There we go. So we've reorganized our output to ensure that we have citizen with a processing cost per citizen, benefits, values and names, multiple benefits per citizen, and we've reorganized our blocks to make sure that the blocks are calculated for each of the citizens. And in this case, we have the benefits that are calculated by the citizen, and in this case, the cost of the processing, which is calculated per citizen. We're going to go one step further, and we're going to add one more block. Let's just add a simple calculation rule and say something like the benefit code name equals, let's use a function, substring, the benefit name, and we'll say start at character 0 and finish at character 3. So in this case, we're creating a new attribute for the benefit entity. It's called the benefit code name, which is going to be the first 3 letters of the benefit name, which means here we're going to say it's not per case, it's not per citizen, it's for each of the citizens the benefits. And our red wavy line goes away. So we've successfully created a table which at the beginning was using all global attributes, and we demonstrated that a table can contain operators, we can have multiple columns, we can have ranges, we can use calculations. We then added an object list to show how to infer an object called benefits, and we used a couple of input columns and a couple of output columns, and we mapped that to our outputs. Then we adjusted everything by creating a new entity called the citizen, which required us to revisit each of these blocks and make sure that we had the correct scope so that the code is run on the correct scope. And we then made sure that all of this made sense. And as the inputs, right now, all we have is the citizen. Each citizen will have a name and a zip code. Well, you know what? I think it would be quite nice to have one more. Let's do the citizen's name, because I'd like to be able to have an input called the citizen's name so that I can have an output called the citizen's name. For no other reason than it'll make it easier to read when we run it. Good. So I'm going to run this, and the run screen will load, and I'll be able to try it straight away. And you'll notice in the try it section, once it's finished loading, that we have a display very familiar to us, kind of looks like the old debugger. I can add a person. In fact, I'm going to add 2 citizens. The first citizen is going to be Richard Napier, that's me. I'll put in my age, I'm 25 years old, and my zip code is going to be Metropolitan Mainland France. So you can see that I receive an adult benefit. The second one is going to be another person who is living in an overseas territory and is under the age of 25. And you can see that this particular individual has received 2 benefits. The young person benefit has received 3 benefits, I beg your pardon. The young person's benefit, the adult benefit, and the overseas benefit. So I can return to my benefits, and you'll see that yes, we should really have said let's let's add another condition and move it to the left and say the citizen's age. There we go. So that you can either get the young or the adult. And we'll go back to our run. We'll go back to refresh this. And we can see we've corrected the little bug so that this individual who is age 17 now receives the young and the overseas benefit. I hope that this little demonstration of a table object, table block and object block was useful to you, and also especially the ability to construct an entity hierarchy here in the output and in the input, and the necessity to work with the scope of each of the blocks to make sure that what you're writing, your rules that you're writing, are executed in the correct scope. That's it for our second demo. This is Richard from the OPA Hub, your source for intelligent advisor content, saying thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again shortly for video number 3.